the blue gold game, what we'll do is we'll have the first team offense will be in blue, and they're going to go against the first team defense, and they'll be in white. Good idea? So we'll go blue. That'll be the blue-white game, and then the other two units will follow. So ones versus ones. You guys get up early this morning?
So is it a game or is it Stableford? No.
Yes, it's Stableford system. Yes, sounds like a good idea. No, it's a regular game. Everything will be the same. Quarterbacks are not live, but everything else will be the same. No live special teams. We'll just step to it and kick it. So no live special teams. The quarterback's not live. Everything else is essentially what I wanted to do when we started here 12, 13 weeks ago is set up competitive situations, and this will be extremely competitive with our ones going against the ones. And then obviously our twos, competing on obviously a level playing field. Good. So we covered really the two most important things. The weather is supposed to be great on Saturday as well. That's really all I have. Weather and the game is going to be blue versus white. That's all I got. Sorry.
How excited, is the team to finally get to the spring game?
I think they're like anybody else. They like being in the stadium. They certainly like the game day environment and competing. Today anytime you get a chance to compete, the guys get excited. That's why they play the game, is to compete. They know that the importance of practicing and developing, but they want to compete, so they'll be ready.
What are some of the things that you're looking to see from your guys on Saturday? Just
a continuation of what we've been, working on. This is really about, what's most important right now. We're not playing Temple this weekend, so really continuing to, stick to the process for our players. Talking to them after practice, just making sure that they finish strong. We started well. The 3 months ago, I want to finish strong. And when I say finish strong, it's really not about production in the game. It's about process. So I want to make sure that, for example, there's an attention to detail with all the position groups, right? Now that they're in a competitive situation, that they raise their level of focus. That they're a gritty team, that they keep fighting, that there's no quit in this team, no matter what the circumstances are, even though it's a blue-white, blue-gold game. I want to see a great attitude from the group, great energy, across the board. So more about the process, that's really important at this moment, more so than, what Wimbush's numbers are, or how many carries a guy gets and what his yardage. I'm not really interested in the production per se, as much as what's really important right now is that they continue to stay on course relative to the process.
If you were one of the 25,000 fans that would be in the stadium, what would you look for to see if this team's going to be better next year?
Well, they're not going to be able really, Al, to see the things that I see. What they're going to be looking for is more of the individual players making plays. They're going to look towards the quarterback. They're going to look towards, some individual defensive players, but that's not going to tell the whole story. And this isn't about telling the story. This is about a continuation of what we've been doing since January. And so what I hope at the end of the game is that more than anything else, that we continue to work on the things that are really important to me. And it's what I've just kind of articulated. So I don't think that the average fan is looking for that. If I had them with me for the last 3 months, they would be tuned into that and they would look for it and go, I see that. But they're not going to be really tuned into that. They're going to look for those individual plays. And I suspect that they'll see some of that as well. And then on the other hand, they may not and leave going, well, I don't see much of a difference. And I'm not really important, that's not really important to me. What's important right now are the things that I've talked about. And then when we get to Temple, they should have an expectation of all that coming together.
Brian, how would you assess Dalen Hayes' spring, and where do you want to see him go this summer?
So I think he's a great example of him taking his level of focus and understanding of the position up a couple of levels. So, and I think we've all talked about this, you know, the position is new to him this spring in a sense that he dabbled at it a little bit, but this is really a new position for him. Playing defense, he doesn't have a big resume. So this was really a great spring for him and for Coach to really lay down a great base of learning. And I think he did a terrific job as a player of really buying into that and not getting too far ahead of himself. Taking on blocks, dropping into coverage, paying attention to those details that go with the position. So when he gets to that first game, I think you're going to see a player that has improved dramatically because he's really paid attention to those kinds of things.
Coaches, there's so many new parts to your staff and your team. How has this spring been different than springs you've had in the past, and how do you feel like it's all come together now that you're getting ready for the blue-white game?
Well, I think the players have been energized. You know, when there's new faces and you know, there's a clear mission in front of them and a clear path that we have kind of gone down. I think you have you know, an all-in kind of sense amongst the group. So that's energizing. I think with the coaches, they've done a great job of teaching. So for me, what's different is just really spending more time keeping us on that path. Not spending as much time on what play we're going to run as much as how we're going to continue to communicate the same message. And that's a bit of a different role for me. Although I did that in all my years, I'm just doing it more focused on a day-to-day basis.
And after all the practices you've had, is there some players that have kind of stood out, you know you can count on at this point?
Well, I think guys with, you know, a lot of experience you're going to continue to count on. You know, Drew Tranquil is a guy that is a captain we know we can count on. I think you look to the captains first because you know you're going to count on them off the field, and that means you probably can count on them on the field as well. So take those guys. And then, you know, I think Quentin Nelson, Mike McGlinchey, those three guys in particular, Sam Mustapher, guys you can count on right out of the gates. You know, I think EQ is going to be a guy that he's not a captain, but you can count on. Equanimous. You know, I think there's great depth at the running back position. So, I mean, I think if you look at Julian Love, he's really shown a consistency at his position that we really like. I think when Sean Crawford comes back, there's another guy that you can count on. And then I think we're developing some consistency even at the defensive line across the board, where we're seeing some consistent play. You know, with Jerry Tillery this spring, I think was a good spring for Jerry. You know, we saw much more consistency from him. So I think there's a lot of guys. I can probably go through, you know, 30 guys where we're much more consistent.
Brian, we didn't see Kevin Stepherson out there.
Yeah, he's taking care of a personal matter this morning, but he'll be back with us tonight. We have a meeting tonight at 5:30, so he'll be back at that tonight.
And his hamstring
Yeah.
healed enough where he can play in the blue gold game?
We're expecting him to play, yes.
Brian, kind of beyond process, what are some of the most, or what are some things you're most curious about, I guess, for Saturday's game?
I don't know that I'm curious about anything as much as it's really another practice for us. It's another opportunity for us maybe to compete in a longer fashion. So we'll get a little bit more of the needed grit out of our guys, where it'll be sustained effort for a longer period of time with a little bit of stress, because there's, you know, they're out there, they're on TV, there's fans out there, so we create a little bit of that. So I'll get a chance to see that, but I've seen them in that kind of stress and fatigue in the off season and how they've handled it. But this is another form now in a game like. But there's nothing that I'm really, oh my God, I got to see this. I know what I have. This is really still about just developing our team and just another opportunity for them to continue to build on what's really most important right now.
This is kind of a follow-up to, I think somebody asked you a few weeks ago about kind of your evaluation process and observations during practice. If there's something that you see that you don't like, what's kind of your process of rectifying that, and what happens, you know, during that situation?
It depends what it is. There's some things that I like. There's some things that I don't like. I'll usually sit down with the coach individually. I mean, I think I can give you a number of instances. I really liked Mike Elston's teaching progression this spring, the way he's laid out a consistency to, you know, working off the sled, then to the boards, and talking about his programming in terms of, you've got to step with this foot, because if you don't step with this foot, and when we get to tempo and you step with the wrong foot, we're not going to be able to, you know, hold up in that gap. So I love sitting down with Mike and reinforcing that teaching progression and how that's going. You know, I think there are also times where, you know, we want to make sure that we're building the confidence in our group. So if I feel like, you know, the confidence in the group needs to be built, I'll talk to a coach about, you know, positive motivation. So it really just depends on what the situation is, and I'll sit down one-on-one in a coach's office, and we'll have those conversations.
Brian, have you some individuals that have come on late? I realize you had a gap with Easter break, but late in this spring practice that maybe earlier weren't showing themselves, that are making a strong finish here, especially younger guys?
You know, I think you know, the developmental process for, you know, a Julian O'Core. I think the developmental process for, you know, looking at an offensive line, you know, Eichenberger, you know, those guys are continuously to make progress. You've heard about their names, but those guys continuously get better every day. And put us in a better position. Maybe they're not frontline guys to the way you guys see them, but those are really important players to us. A guy that I can tell you that has made really significant process, and again, you guys probably don't care as much about it, but keeps me up, is John Shannon. You know, our long snapper. You know, we're asking him to do a lot more than we did last year, and he's made significant progress. You've seen Sam Kohler kick. I mean, he's kicked the ball extremely well through the spring, and you know, you go in and yeah, I know we've got a kid coming, but you know, to have a kid develop in the spring like that, you know, is nice to see. So I'd like to give you some great names that are going to jump out at you, but I think it's the names that you already know that have continuously. Khalid Kareem has gotten better each and every day that he's out there. I don't think anybody's taken a step back. Like, nobody's going in the other direction. You know, we're not looking at anybody and saying they've thrown in the towel. You know, they don't see themselves. Everybody, we had meetings with our guys and gave them, here's where you are, here's how we see that you're progressing, and let's continue the process. Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, he's going to be with the first team defense, you know. So he's making great progress.
Questions, Nico Pertito,
yeah, he'll go with that. You couldn't keep him out.
Yeah.
Short of chopping it off, he'd do a Ronnie Lott and probably chop it off.
Javon McKinley, we see gets the red
Once in a while, if he remembers to put it on. He's such a big kid. I think the red jersey should go against the guy who's going against him. He always gets the other guy hurt. So, yeah. He does. I mean, he's a good player. He's a good player. He just needs to get out there. You know, he got behind a little bit, but he's going to help us in the fall. You know, he's a good player.
How high is LSA Jones's ceiling?
Well, he can do all the things that any tight ends in the country can do. I think what has changed Alizé is just he's organized in his thoughts. He's organized in his day-to-day life. You know, he's taking care of business off the field, which invariably it always comes back to this. If you're taking care of work in the classroom and you're starting the day right, making your bed. I'm just using that analogy. If you start the day right, it's going to trend the right way, and it's trending the right way on the field for him. He knows what he's doing. He's really got his nose in the playbook, and I just think he's going to really be a successful player.
Matchup-wise, I mean, that's got to make you smile.
Yeah, I don't know how you're going to defend him. There's not a safety or a linebacker, you know. If you start spreading him out, maybe a corner can get a hand in there and deflect the ball, and maybe he doesn't run the route quite the way a receiver would, but he's going to be very difficult to defend.
We're two young receivers, Boykin and Claypool. Where are they in route running and reliability and consistency?
Well, I think they're emerging in all of those categories. Are they a finished product? No. But I think what's happening is we're feeling more comfortable with Boykin that we can push EQ to the field. And I think you saw a little bit of that until he got tight in his hamstring and we pulled him today. We didn't want to get him injured and not have him for the spring game. So with Miles really playing at a really top level for us in consistency, we can move EQ to the wide field. And now we feel like we've got two big weapons there. That moves Chase inside. Now, he's not a prototypical inside receiver, but there are some things where, as a blocker, as a guy that can come over the middle, I mean, there's not many teams that can match the size and physicality of that kid. Does that mean he's on the field for every snap? No, I think there's some things that we would move him out and put somebody else in there, but I think in all three of the areas that you mentioned, they're all moving closer in the process towards where we feel good about them.
Coach, receiver-wise, you kind of noticed a lot more, kind of throwing it up, some more back shoulders maybe out in the field than we've seen in the past. Is that more of a byproduct of just the change, the direction of the offense, or is it more of a byproduct of the fact that you've got a bunch of 6'4" plus kids at receiver?
It's a little bit of both in terms of, you know, I think the size and the way that those guys can gain immediate mismatches, and the offensive structure is, you know, with some of the RPOs, we're getting some one-on-one because, look, we're going to run the football effectively, and you're going to drop an extra hat. We're going to get a lot of those one-on-one matchups, and that's one of the reads is that individual matchup. So part of it's prompted by the offense, and part of it's prompted by the size that we have that allows us to now key into those individual reads.
Kind of following up a comment you just made, talking about the RPOs. Obviously, that's a little different read, actually quite a bit different read for the quarterback as far as who's reading from the read zone that you guys have done in the past, reading the end. Can you talk about the difference, the bind that puts defenses in compared to what you've done in the past, where you're more reading the box player as opposed to now you're reading a sort of a force player?
Yeah, it's there are definite differences between the two. I think it requires, first of all, your ability to run the football, and if there's an effective run game, you really put that second-level player in a very impossible situation. I think it requires a quarterback that gets the ball out of his hand quickly and has some accuracy. If you're long and not accurate, your RPOs are not very effective. And so I think we match the quarterback with the offense and the personnel to get to, you know, where we feel like that becomes a part of our offense.
And last one, it seems like the volume defensively was a lot higher today than the last time we were here.
Yep.
How close are you guys to kind of having everything, you know, the basic of what you want to do? With
Base defense is in. The base of our defense. I mean, you'll see more third down stuff. You know, Sean Crawford obviously not being with us. He's obviously a guy that, you know, we're going to look at maybe playing some nickel too with him. But there'll be a little bit more, maybe a little bit more individual pressures too. But a good base of it is installed. Yeah. So the kids will leave here with a pretty good understanding of what we're doing defensively. Yes, he took half-line pass today, which is a pretty aggressive half-line 7-on-7, and was in and out of his pedal nicely. This is the second time he's done this, and came back with no ill effects. So, I mean, I don't want to speak for Rob Hunt, our head athletic trainer, but you know, I think if we had to play, you know, he's close to playing.
From Brandon Winbush's career?
Well, you know, we didn't have much of you know, to go off of, right? You know, we played him we didn't play him at all last year. And then as a freshman, true freshman, you're just hoping that he gets the snap. You know, I think what I've been most impressed with him is he listens very well. He's a guy that will listen, excuse me, make the appropriate adjustments, and come back and go to work on what you've instructed him. And I think the second thing is his presence. You know, he runs that offense like he's been running it for a few years. There's no panic. There's a calmness. There's an organization to it. I think in those two areas, he runs it as if he's been doing it for quite some time.
Lastly, you talked about how you're keeping the program on message every day. Having guys that were first-year leaders last year be second-year leaders this year, how's that helped you inside your locker room?
Well, I think I've done a better job for them. You know, I've given them a clear understanding of what, you know, what the blueprint is. You know, here's what we're doing. Here's how we're going to do it. Here's what we're going to stick to. We're going to do this together. And I didn't do a very good job of that last year. So I think just giving them that clear direction, putting them in a position where they can lead on a day-to-day basis is allowed them to be better at what they do. So I think that clarity and that communication has helped them immensely.
Coach, it's hard not to notice all the construction and
Yeah.
things being built around here. Has that had a tangible effect, you think, on you know, recruiting and what you're trying to get done here? And will it extend beyond what's going on at the stadium eventually?
Yeah, we have a project here that has been approved by our Board of Trustees that will grow this building and add a new indoor, which we're excited about, which you know is needed obviously, but with the new Crossroads project and that project opening up this fall, the following fall we hope to have the work completed here that we need with the new indoor facility. So, yeah, I mean, that's exciting when you can have back-to-back years of new, you know, projects that enhance, you know, your program. Those are pretty significant in recruiting.
Brian, where are you at the safety positions?
Jalen, Nick Coleman, Devin, Nico, and, you know, Isaiah, and who am I missing? You guys tell me. Yeah, that'd be Morgan. That'd be a Morgan slash Isaiah kind of situation.
Do you feel you can count on somebody yet, or is that just gonna go into the summer, still open-ended?
No, I feel like we could play right now with Elliott, Coleman, Studstill, those three guys, and in certain situations, Tranquil back there, depending on what the D&D is. And come into the fall, you know, we've got some flexibility with maybe another corner possibly giving us down and distance work back on the safety position as well. You know, if it's third down, you know, we've got 5 corners, so, and we like our corners, we can insert a corner and maybe one of those corners can go back and play half. Not a run fit guy, but maybe a half player.
Anybody in particular?
No, I'm not, I don't, I'll let you guys kind of.
A bigger body, like Vaughn?
No. You're looking, when we're talking in those kinds of situations, you're talking about maybe playing 2-man and playing half over the top, a ball hawk, a guy that can play the ball in the air, a smart guy. That should eliminate like 8 guys, so you guys can figure it out from there. So we got, there's enough versatility that I feel good about.
Have you looked at any of those guys in that capacity?
No, well, there's only one guy there's only going to be one guy that we're going to look to moving back there. So, and again, it'll be in a specialty situation.
Early signing period, and then
Yeah.
the other NCAA rules.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's been pretty clear. I think that it's across the board. Everybody has been on board about this early signing period. You know, we feel as though that is a positive thing. I do, personally. I like the fact that we can get juniors up here in April through June and see our, you know, beautiful campus and the great weather that we have here in South Bend. April through June is great months to have, you know, early visitors, not just rely on home games. So I think those are great things from our perspective. Who knows, you know, how that will eventually play out? Will you have, you know, all your early commitments signed? Who knows? We're not necessarily counting on that. Some may choose to do that. But everyone that chooses, it allows us another resource to be pointed towards those that are not. Because, you know, we're coast to coast. You know, we're going from LA to New Jersey. So any one less trip for a coach to go coast to coast to focus on a particular kid that's not committed is a resource well served. No doubles, not a big deal. You know, I think we had 3 last year. So I'm good with that. I think you can get plenty of work done in that time frame. And I think the last one was the coach, you know, January. You know, again, I think we were supportive of the 10th coach as well. I think I covered all of them, right?
Are you going to the draft next week?
I'm going to be there to support Deshaun, yes. Good? All right.